some instance, innovations and entrepreneurial strokes of genius, developed an internationally renowned capability in and around the creative industries. And if we're quoting Reith, I think Reith also described broadcasting. I often wonder whether Reith knew he would then be quoted in industry for he produced quotes like Winston Churchill, but he described broadcasting as the conscience of the nation. And I have paraphrased him to say, well, if broadcasting is the conscience of the nation, then could broadband be the engine of the nation? And I think that the crux of this discussion is how does broadcasting sit alongside the disruptive consequences of a very different distribution capability, which just changes the way all of us are consuming, using, and accessing content. It just changes the game. It's a game changer. And we can now all see that. I don't think people are debating that. I think they're debating what that means and what are the consequences of that. What does that mean in terms of usage? What does it mean in terms of rights? What does it mean in terms of whether the markets meet the state? What does it mean in terms of public intervention? And self-evidently, what does it mean for some of the existing broadcasting institutions? That's a sharper question, frankly, if you are a single country, largely advertiser-funded media business, because that's a pretty lonely place to be right now. It's self-evidently the less sharp question in financial terms if you're the BBC, because of A, the way in which the BBC is funded, and B, frankly, because of some rather smart strategic decisions the BBC has made over the years to broaden its position into multiple forms of content and platforms. But nevertheless, the questions put it very, very sharp. And the challenge to us in government is to try and look at those questions and come out with a framework and a set of answers. The Digital Britain Project, I've never thought will come up with all of the answers. And as some of you have heard me say before, so apologies for repetition, one of the differences between the Digital Britain Report and, for example, the Allen Report or the Peacock Review or any of the others that are touched exclusively on broadcasting is in the main, those have been reports to government. This isn't a report to government, it is a report of government. And many of you who are more seasoned than I will recognise that that is a very different line of work. When you're doing a report to government, within reason, you can say what you like. And as has been exemplified by the introduction, it sometimes can take 4 or 5, or in some instances 10 or 15 years for that to come to fruition. When government is making a report, that's government policy. That's a very different beast. And we are trying to address some of the basic questions around networks, around access, around investment, around legal framework, and around the creative industries, and in particular around public service content, and what it means for, in particular, the state-owned players in that market, the BBC and Channel 4, but also what are the consequences for those businesses such as ITV and Channel 5, which in truth have been regulated sources of revenue for investment in UK content. And those regulated sources of revenue are looking very different right now than they were for quite some time. Either that is a fact, and you just have to recognise it, declare victory or defeat and move on, or it is a significant change in the amount of investment available for UK content, and then take a view as to whether or not you want to replicate that in some way, shape or form. As Danny said at the beginning, we're at a point whereby we're looking for responses this week, and then we'll have a series of kind of roundtable. We'll publish the responses apart from those people who want to redact their positions for reasons of confidentiality. Then we'll have a series of debates and discussions, and hopefully we'll publish a final report in May or June. I have never felt, again, that this report will provide all the answers to all of the questions. I hope it provides some of the answers to some of the questions. I hope it provides a framework for where this goes afterwards. And whoever is the next government, I hope it provides a platform which we can build from. Why? Because this is a critically important sector for us. I spent the previous 2 days in and around Europe. One of the things we're trying to do, not particularly germane to the creative debate today, but very relevant, is change the rules in Europe around universal service obligations. And you know at the moment European law says there's a universal service obligation in the Framework Directive, but electronic services could build to in the future. To do that, we need to build an agreement around Europe to change the rules. When you find yourself, as I am at the moment, in multiple bilateral and multilateral discussions around Europe on this question, what you discover is that many countries around the world are deeply envious of our industrial and cultural credibility in the creative industries. And they view it as something that this country, under successive governments, have made conscious industrial policy decisions to maximize our position. Now, in this country, industrial policy has had a bad name for a long time. But actually, the truth of the matter is we have taken industrial policy decisions in key sectors. We've taken them in defense, we've taken them in pharmaceuticals, and we have undoubtedly taken them in broadcasting. Now, as these markets converge, the question is, are we going to take some industrial policy decisions in relation to the converged sector? And if we're not, why are we doing it? Are we not because as a point of theological principle, we think it's entirely a matter for the market, where, frankly, any first-year media student would work out on a piece of analysis that very little of the market in this sector is entirely a matter of the market. It's a highly regulated and highly constrained market. So there is undoubtedly a role for government. There's a very, very stipulated role for government in the broadcasting arena, but there is a very, very significant role for government in how it shapes policy in the development of the new and converged markets. So I don't think it's a debate. I think it's a discussion. I think it's a process where we're trying to find the best of the answers, the best of the approaches. And we certainly are a long way from